All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to the line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, good evening. This is the Jenn and Rick Show. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen, and she's with me right now. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I would be doing better if it was Friday, but then again, if it was Friday, I wouldn't be hanging out with you. I'd be hanging out with Dan. So I'm gonna say I got a scenery upgrade on Thursdays. I'm just saying.
Hey, I love Dan.
Oh, okay. So anyway, lots of stuff going on in the news. So I think we're going to start with one that I think I'm the most confused over. And since you happen to be a woman, I think it's better to get your point of view on it. This whole Trump saying that women shouldn't need a prescription to get birth control. That's the only thing that he said that I'm kind of like really not that sure on. I just know that I'm not a doctor, and I know that there are people that can get really, really sick from using that, and I've even known a couple of news stories about people dying from it, so I'm not so sure it should be completely over the counter, but I thought it would be nice to get a woman's perspective.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He was talking about birth control, and I know we kind of as a society treat it this way, so I think that a lot of people tend to be rather misinformed on it. But he was treating birth, and I'm no expert, but, you know, as someone who has been, people have tried to persuade to be on it most of my, you know, adult life, even teenage life, and read all the pamphlets and done all and talked to the people. I've never taken it myself, but I'm very familiar with a lot of it. We kind of treat it like it's just like taking cough medicine or like Sudafed or something. It's not. And even with those things, you have things that you shouldn't do and protocols you should take. But I mean, this is something that actually causes like hormonal changes in your body, you know, differences in your chemical makeup in order for it to work properly. So that in and of itself should require you to see a doctor and get a prescription, and that should null and void the conversation of having it be over the counter. Now, on top of that, it's kind of like blood pressure medication or anything like that, where it can be safely, as far as we know, a part of your daily life if you are taking it the way it's prescribed, and you understand that after talking about it with a nurse or a doctor that prescribes it to you. Also, after having fully disclosed your medical history and current medications you are taking. You can't just take birth control if you are on various other medications on a regular basis. And as someone who has an autoimmune disease and who was on medication for it for several years, had I taken birth control at that time, my increased risk of stroke or blood clot was through the roof. So it's not so simple as just like, well, millions of women take it every day. It should just be available. They should just be able to go up to the pharmacist and buy it. It's a more serious drug than that. And I think we kind of overlook it because it's just become such a normal part of life. And I mean, and I think it should be. I mean, women should have decent access to birth control, but not taking away the prescription aspect, in my non-medical opinion, just my common sense opinion, is not a smart thing to do.
Well, see, that's kind of my take on it, but I thought if I said that, I would come across as just evil, mean guy that just wanted to keep women away from birth control.
It's not like, hey, don't let them have it. It's just that you should have to see someone that, you know, adequately explains the proper use of it and also knows your medical history so that they know what kind to give you, because sometimes some things work with one. If someone is on medication, for example, for something, you know, they might be able to do another form of birth control rather than just the pill that won't have the same complications as a pill would. And then there are different brands of the pill that all have different things they do in the way they react in your body. So I absolutely think that something of that kind should absolutely be advised by a doctor and need a prescription. Now, maybe I do think one thing that we've done in the United States is we've kind of tied both hands behind our pharmacist's back. And we finally started to open that up a little bit by allowing them to do the flu shots. There are some pharmacies where the pharmacist can kind of act as like, it's, you know, like the 5-minute doc clinic type thing where they can, you know, diagnose basic things. They can provide just basic medical care. That was one of the things for all the things that are wrong with healthcare in Europe. When I lived in Spain, that was one of the things that was great, though, about the pharmacist is like you didn't go you didn't have to wait to go to a GP or anything like that. You could just walk straight into the pharmacist if you were having, let's say, a sore throat or running a fever or just, something basic that you didn't need to go to an ER for. You could walk into a pharmacist, be treated. They can write you the prescription right there and fill it for you right there and then send you on your way. Or if they thought it was something more serious or that you needed, more in-depth care, then they would recommend you to a doctor or send you on to the hospital. And I think that we have such highly trained, they all have to go through such rigorous education that we're kind of underutilizing that part of their experience and education, that maybe that could be an alternative, is that you could go to a pharmacist. You have to provide certain things, all medications you're on. They can look you up in the medical doc system, and then they can adequately prescribe. That would cut out some of the in-between that makes it maybe a little bit more difficult sometimes for women to keep up with their prescriptions. But as far as just not having a prescription at all, I think that that's kind of a dangerous way to go.
No, honestly, that would be a good compromise. I've noticed lately that I see this happening more and more in a lot of the larger drugstores. They'll have little clinics that are actually run in the drugstores right. A lot of times now. And I think expanding and utilizing that more and making it more readily available for everybody would probably help with all aspects of healthcare. Because there's a clinic that I go to I say right down the street, but I live in the middle of nowhere, so it's about 8 miles from here. But it's run by nurses. There's one doctor that runs the whole place, but all he really does is review all the nurses. So there are certain things they can't do there. But if you're just trying to go in because you got a cold or sniffles or whatever, it's a great place to go because you get in, you get out, and, it's pretty simple. So, that's one of the things that we could start doing as well, is expanding a lot of these newer clinic types that I've seen kind of springing up everywhere over the last 10 years, all these little urgent care centers that are now actually starting. I've seen a few of them that are an urgent care center / general practitioner office. So not only can it be somewhere you go for urgent care, it can also be somewhere where you're actually seeing a doctor that has access to all of your medical records and does routine checkups for you, etc. I went to one of those in Midwest City because it was great, because if there was something that came up with my kids, we just went there, and it was also where my doctor was at the time that had all my files. There are so many different ways that we could be taking care of a lot of these things that we're just not. Yeah. And
yeah, it's utilizing it and utilizing nurse practitioners, which are just like such a small step below a doctor. It's not even funny. The amount of education they have and their ability to treat, in a clinic type situation. I think that, and it's cheaper for these clinics than it is for, some of these private doctors' offices. And they can take on nurses and doctors that are kind of working their way into whatever kind of field of medicine they want to do, or so they can just hire the recent graduates or people that are coming, back to a place after they've kind of had their career and they're coming home. That's what I know, that one of the ones at the clinic nearby, that's this guy, had his own practice in another part of the country for a very long time. After retiring, wanted to come back to where he grew up, as he doesn't have much family. And so, and they're all here. So he was able to get on as kind of, part-time at an urgent care place like that. And he's got a crazy amount of experience. And, but it's affordable usually for the patients and for the clinics as well. So it's been cool to see that happen, because that seriously was one of the few takeaways from when I lived over there of their system. I got sick several times while I was there, as did a few of my friends. And being able to walk into the pharmacist, have them swab you for strep and check for sinus infections and do all of that and treat you right then and there and walk out was really great. The downside was that there aren't that many private doctor's offices that just take anybody, if you don't live there full time or you haven't used them for a long time. So most people, they either go to the pharmacist, or the pharmacist can't treat them, or if it gets worse, then they go to the hospital. So the hospitals are that's kind of become the GP of those places, is just going to the hospital. And I spent a couple nights in the emergency room, one for myself and one with a friend. And then even in the hospital, their basic cure is we'll do chest x-rays and then we'll give you a shot of steroids in your butt. And that's send you on your way. And it worked, but okay, great. There was no real, it didn't seem like there was much of an evaluation. It was like, oh, you're sick, you have an infection, we'll give you something to clear that right up, bend over. And it happened with almost every single one of us that couldn't knock something out. We all kind of got a kind of a bronchial infection that we couldn't quite knock out with just regular antibiotics. And everybody had that happen at various different hospitals. It was like, okay, that's just their thing. They're like, well, if this doesn't cure it, then they're going to die.
Nice. Okay, so before we get on with the rest of the topics that we had kind of bantied back and forth about for a little bit, I don't remember if we've talked about this much this week, but I just kind of have to bring it up again because Sean Hannity is at it again. And no, this isn't what we were just talking about a second ago.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
That's right, folks. Sean Hannity, basically in an audio clip, has reminded folks not to mess with him, and they better vote for Trump because he's a brown belt.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say. He's a mess. He's just a mess. He's become like a parody of.
He's got Sarah Palin syndrome.
Yeah. He's like become a parody of himself, right? And, SNL would be great to pick up on this and mock him because you could do a lot of funny stuff with what he's put out there lately.
And dude, all they've got to do is like mine the 2016 election cycle, and Saturday Night Live could have material for the next 30 years. They really could.
Oh,
and it's just terrible.
Yeah. This whole cycle. Oh, good grief! I don't even know how you choose as someone who is a writer for something like SNL, or if you're a comedian, doing stand-up on Friday nights in Hollywood. I don't know how you choose. There's just too much stuff.
It's just insane watching all of this stuff unfold. The funny thing is, like today, because I wound up staying home from the day job because I had a trip to the chiropractor yesterday that messed me up a little bit more than usual. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, there's not really anything on. I really don't want to leave my chair right now because I've got the massager turned on and it's open with the back. So I turn on Netflix and I start going through recent releases. They had a new Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy thing on, so I started watching it. And of course, these guys are talking about the election cycle because this was all taped in end of 2015, beginning 2016. So it was when things were really starting to get interesting. And Jeff Foxworthy's like, I really don't, same thing you just said. He's like, I really don't see a clear choice this election cycle. And I'm like, well, damn, even if the comedians are picking up on it, we've got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the diehards of each, and among those groups, like, their candidate can do no wrong. They can spin anything however they need to make it fit, what they want and what they believe or what they think they believe. And then you've got a whole bunch of us that aren't far left or far right, or at least have some other weird kind of devotion to these human beings that people are like gods. And you've got a whole bunch of us in between there, left and right and middle, that are going, WTF, like, get me out of here. Can we start over, or come on, SMOD?
I'm still voting for SMOD, I'm not going to lie. I mean, on the actual ballot, I still, unfortunately, am leaning towards Johnson, and that's only because write-ins don't work in my state, and I'm not voting for either one of those two, and I would feel extremely weird about leaving the top of the ballot blank. Although it really disturbs me that my choice is between Tribblehead, the Brownie Eater, and Parkinson Girl.
I don't know why that just struck me. It's so funny you saying that way.
Well, I mean, it was not necessarily intended as funny, but it kind of outlines the exact situation we find ourselves in. We can either vote for a guy that spends the majority of his time talking about how much he likes marijuana edibles. We can vote for a guy that tells us we have to beat Hillary Clinton because of what she stands for, yet stands for much of the same things and is starting to reveal more and more of them. Or we can vote for someone who's lying about her health and is probably really, really sick and doesn't want anybody to know. I mean, yeah, half dozen of one, six of the other, we're all in the same place. We have a Democrat running as a Libertarian, a Democrat running as a Republican, and pretty sure we have a Socialist running as a Democrat. But I thought we were getting that with Bernie, but I think we got it with Hillary.
Kind of a socialist fascist running. She's kind of a. I mean, I know a lot of socialists are fascists anyway, but it's just she's a mixed bag over there that definitely leans more left than just average Democrat, but then not so much on other things, and she's kind of authoritarian, which is a common trait of her and Trump. She's
a mixed old bag. Let's get that thrown in there.
A mixed old bag hag, yes.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm watching all the new stuff, and it's so, I hate to say it, but at this point, I'm here for the popcorn, because we've known this was happening for about 12 months. We've been warning everybody it was going to happen, and we keep watching Trump roll out all these leftist policies, and all of the people that were touting him for being so conservative and what a great Republican he was are now like, well, these are great ideas now that he has them. Really?
Some of the stuff I've seen over the last few days has just been like hair ripping out frustrating. The way that they're like, well, imagine if you're a poor single mom whose dad ran out and you have 3 kids, mouths to feed, and just in order to work, you have to go into poverty to pay for childcare. Oh my gosh, that has been the liberal sing-song for as long as I can imagine. And, like I said today, there are plenty of programs in place to help someone in that position. Number one. And number two, what's next? Are we going to be rationalizing the, minimum wage increase to $15 an hour? Are we going to be, obviously we know that
he's already done that.
Single payer. I meant just these people, though. They're kind of saying oh, y'all are just saying he said that, but he won't say that when it's he's the nominee or when he's the president. He's going to be totally Republican then. It's just such a joke. It's such a joke. I like what one of these articles we were talking about earlier. What was it? In Conservative Review with Steve Deese said, if we have to beat Hillary Clinton because of what she stands for, then why are we voting for someone giving us what Hillary Clinton stands for? He'll do Hillary better than Hillary is basically what they're selling right now. It's so true, but without the lying, murderous, corrupt side of it, because that's only her. It's just, it's tiring, really. It's tiring. And he's exactly right. They're basically arguing that he'll out Hillary. And that's what we're supposed to be happy with? That's insane.
And I guess the scariest thing about that is they're all like, oh, look, he's starting to climb in the polls. And there really are a lot of polls that are starting to show him either getting to the point where he's gained almost all the ground back with her, or he's actually, even in a lot of states, apparently starting to pull ahead. But, the thing I have to ask with that is, if we have to win elections by becoming the very people that we used to fight against, who's winning, us or them?
Yeah, they are. And here's the thing is that if we have to go progressive in order to beat progressives, then all we're ever going to get is progressivism, which is what supposedly we stand against and fight for, which is supposedly why none of these other candidates were good enough for all of the Trump supporters, the diehards. They could pick apart the smallest things that had anything to do with compromising with a Democrat or even talking to a Democrat on a subject as disqualifiers. But now it's totally cool to go so far left in order to beat a leftist. We're never going to be able to go back. It's all going to be progressivism. And I'm sorry to tell them that won't help any of their causes, fears, whatever about illegal immigration. I mean, you can't walk forward in such outright progressivism on 5 or 6 different policy fronts and then go, oh, no, but this one, we're going to be so hard right that even most Republicans don't support it. It's not going to work. It will never happen. It will never come to fruition. And they don't care. They just lap it up like the little, sycophants they are.
I was about to say the same thing. The funny thing is to watch them rationalize it, because you see it, when we start pointing out, hey, he's pretty far left on this one. Hey, he's pretty far left over here on this one. Well, he's only saying that because he has to, because now he has to go find new voters because you conservatives and you diehard conservatives wouldn't support him. Well, I thought you guys were the conservatives, because aren't you guys always the ones that are calling us liberals for not supporting him? You can't have it both ways. Am I a diehard conservative or am I a liberal?
Right. And that's the thing, is it's like, I'm not supporting outright liberal pushes for everything he comes out with recently. All of his policy plans that he comes out with are increasingly leftist. And somehow, though, I'm the liberal and I'm anti-America and I'm, anti the working people because I'm refusing to support very obviously leftist policies. It's over not supporting obviously leftist policies. I mean, it's those versus those. It's not like there is a whole lot of daylight between these two candidates. So the way they conduct themselves in public is about the only difference at this point. He mouths off, he name calls, he says things that are just outrageous and the media can jump on and everybody can go, oh my gosh, why did he do that again? She conducts herself in a little bit more, professional fashion. And but what they're talking about doing with this country, other than the wall, basically, which has been skipped around and walked back 5 million times, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's just who's going to push it farther left.
And that actually kind of seems like the contest at this point. It seems like these two kind of have these two kind of different bets going. And I wouldn't be surprised, with as good of friends as they are behind closed doors, that this probably isn't something that is actually going on. There's probably two different bets running concurrently. One of them probably came up with the bet of, let's see who can run the crappiest possible campaign and still get elected, and then somebody else spouted off and, well, let's see which one of us can push farther left and still get elected. Because, I mean, look, the thing with Trump is everybody talks about how he's this great bastion of conservatism. The dude has never known who he was politically. He's always been looking for an in. He's one of these people that tries on new parties just like anybody else would try on a new suit. And I think what he's found out is the Republican suit that he's been wearing for about the last 15, 16 months doesn't really fit him very well. So he's starting to take it off piece by piece, and what you're finding underneath is the same liberal clothing that he's had on this entire time, but he put on a Republican suit over the top of it. And nobody wanted to listen to us when we said this over and over and over again. But the simple fact of the matter is, again, folks, at this point, I'm only here for the popcorn, because it kind of becomes like parenting at some point. You can only push your children so far. You can only try to teach them right and wrong for so long before at some point they have to figure out how to stand on their own. As somebody who sits behind a microphone 5 days a week, sometimes more than once a day, actually 6 days a week, sometimes more than once a day, and does all of the other things that I've done for the last several years to try to get people's attention and wake them up. Look, there's only so much that we can do, because you still have to be the one to live with your choices. The simple fact of the matter is, at this point, I know America's made the wrong choices, but there's nothing I can do about it now. And everybody keeps asking me, well, who's your pick? Who would you pick? there's not a pick, because look, let's face it, the best we can do at this point is block anybody from getting 270 and kick it over to Congress, because there's no clear path for anybody at this point but these two, and I acknowledge that, but I still will not support either one of them. I don't care if you're a Republican telling me that if I don't vote for Trump, then I'm voting for Hillary. I don't care if you're a liberal telling me that if I don't vote for Hillary, then I'm voting for Trump. I've even had some friends that I consider conservative telling me that since I won't vote for Hillary, I'm giving a half vote for Trump, and that's unacceptable because Trump has to be stopped at all costs. At this point, they both have to be stopped at all costs. No matter which one of these two win, we lose. And I've said that for months, and I'm not going to stop saying it, but it doesn't change the fact that there's really not any way to keep either one of them from getting into office. Unless we can find a way to block 270 and then kick it over to Congress, there's no stopping it at this point. Evans not on enough ballots. Too many states don't recognize write-ins. The Libertarian Party is a joke at this point because they've turned it over to Cheech and Chong. I mean, we don't have there's no path here. But I cannot support either one of these two.
But that's the thing. I don't have to own either one of them, or their actions, or how they behave in public, or the crazy crap that they say, or the policies that push us closer and closer to a socialist America. I don't have to vote for either one of them and own any of their successes or failures. And I certainly don't have to vote for Trump and be part of his destruction of the conservative movement that I know people like you and me have been pushing, fighting, speaking out for so long, which he has almost single-handedly just taken an axe to. And that's the bottom line for me. I totally understand voting for him we've talked about this a million times, so you know what I'm going to say. But for me, I'm like, I don't have to own either one of these awful, awful candidates that America lost their minds and decided to put forth.
And on that note, folks, we are at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, more of the craziness that has been 2016, or as we all around these parts have been lovingly calling it, dumpster fire 2016. Because it's still a mess, it's still raging, and we've got several days until we figure out just how screwed we are. Oh joy. Be back in a few.
If I could, 'cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Alright folks, we are back, we are live, this is the Jenn and Rick Show, and we are continuing to talk about the craziness that is this election cycle. And the funny thing is, and this is going to be kind of probably the last part of the show, and it still kind of fits. I'm just trying to get something pulled up real quick because I just realized that I had a power failure earlier and forgot to pull my soundboard back up. So bear with me for just 1 second here, because we have enough going on that I think we have found a protracted version of the WTF files, but I can't play it without, I can't start it without the sound effect. And I thought it was loading, and apparently now it's not, which is odd. There it goes. All right, here we go.
What the man?
Alright, so in this Thursday edition of the WTF Files, again, nothing really gross, but just really, really weird. One of the things we were talking about on break, and I think I'll open with that, is with this newest gambit of Donald Trump moving into more and more leftist policies. The most recent one, or the biggest one that he's really been talking about, has been the paid maternity leave and all of that fun stuff. The really fun thing to watch on Twitter is all of these people like Bill Mitchell, who were completely opposed to the idea when it was Bernie's, are now doing the whole guilt trip of, oh my God, you just don't understand what it's like to be a woman who's had to work two jobs just to have one of them to pay for daycare. And I'm like, but 3 weeks ago when this was Bernie's idea, you said it was terrible. So,
yeah. I mean, they're having to just really spin their wheels here. And so now they're pulling out that whole compassion card because, newsflash, this is progressive and it's what leftists do. So they're pulling on the heartstrings to try to justify this stance right now. And it's really laughable because they contradict themselves so much, and they don't even they're trying so desperately to explain it that they don't understand even just basic logic in the matter. It's like their brains have been completely eaten up by the Trump virus. So they're saying things to us like, well, but it's not an employer mandate. They never said mandate. So employers won't be forced to pay for it, because most conservatives put their hands up at that and say, wait, don't tell private businesses what to do. First of all, if you believe that, I've got, ocean property in Arizona for you. Absolutely, they will at some point, compel businesses that are of this size or make this much money per year to have to be required to provide this. Secondly, they say, well, but it's not mandating right now. But part of what he's talking about is amending the existing unemployment insurance that companies are required to carry and pay into. And that would pay for some of this plan. Okay, so the companies are paying for it. Even though they're not being compelled to carry, to provide this certain, benefit, they are going to be, in a roundabout way, paying for it. The other part is that it says government guaranteed. Well, no, but you're not going to pay for it. It's going to be the companies. Wait. You just told me the companies aren't going to have to pay for it. Well, only for the ones that don't already provide. And then you see how this is such pretzel logic here, and they just get off track so quick and they twist all around themselves. So then you say, well, no, but it says government guaranteed. So if you're not forcing the companies to do it, it means a lot of companies won't, which means the government already guaranteed it. That's what the policy says. So they're going to have to cover the cost. Well, right, but it's going to be from cutting out fraud and abuse and this and that. So that extra money is what's going to be used for this. Okay, still though, where did that money come from? Who paid that money? Even if it has been used fraudulently, even if programs have been abused, where did that money come from? Anybody? Oh, that's right, the taxpayer. The government doesn't have its own money, and especially not entitlement programs, not in welfare. So it either is coming from joint the employers and the taxpayers, or it's coming for one or the other, or mostly one with the backup of the other. You can have it both ways. It still is a roundabout mandate, and it absolutely is an entitlement. That it increases entitlements, because if they cannot get the fraud and other things under control, if they cannot, amend the UI in order to offset the reduction so that we don't have to raise taxes on it, if they can't do those things, then guess what's going to happen? We are going to have taxes raised. Yippee-ki-yay. So it's all a bunch of lib speak. It's that kind of roundabout, confusing way that they try to rope you into believing something and confusing you with all the various different sides they come at you with it, because they know that it's all a bunch of crap. And if they don't know that, then they're not that smart to begin with. Sorry.
And nothing to be sorry for when you're being truthful. The interesting thing is you listen to Trump's plans for things like Obamacare and now this and a lot of the other things that he's been coming out with lately. And you hear all the pro-Trump talking heads talking about how socialism under Hillary will be terrible. And we have to stop socialism. We have to stop statism. And I'm looking at all these new programs that he's talking about. I'm going, okay, so either you guys think at this point that he's pandering, which he may well be. I don't think he is, but that may be what he's doing. Or you obviously are not paying attention to the things that he's been saying. Because you can't be talking about how Hillary's brand of socialism is going to be completely terrible when Trump is offering a very similar brand of socialism, and apparently that seems to be the greatest thing ever. Maybe he should change his slogan from Making America Great Again to Making America Socialist? I would say again, but we've never really been socialist in the first place, so can't really say again.
Just recently, and just not too long ago, Bill Mitchell, who we were talking about with all of this, he's been like one of the main pushers of all of this, just said Hashtag never Trump are traitors to conservatism. Yet he has not spent one single second of the last week defending anything close to what looks like conservatism. He's been defending liberalism. He's been defending socialism. He's been defending progressivism. So he can go ahead and take that and shove it right back up where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, well, I just, when are they gonna basically own up to what they've done? I mean, because I keep hearing everybody like Mitchell and Dupree and all of the other mid-level folks, and then even some of the bigger ones like Hannity say that when Hillary wins, we're going to have to own it. I don't have to own any of that because I've been up front with you guys since about 3 months in when I said, look, I gave him a look. I actually was thinking about him, and then I realized he's nuts. So if you guys want this guy, you're on your own. And I'm going to talk to you every single day about why I don't think he should be the choice. And again, I understand all these people that are looking at it now going, well, I don't really feel like we have any other option, so I'm going to have to vote for the guy. I've actually been in a very long discussion with a fellow radio host who actually does this on terrestrial, and unfortunately, I have so many mentions today I'm not keeping up with him very well, but we were talking back and forth for hours yesterday, and he actually was originally part of Never Trump, and now is just like, there's not any clear path for me, and I don't see any. I found him. He's Alan J. Sanders, who does he owns AJS Productions and actually is on WSB and WBHF, and we've been talking for most of 2 days because he just doesn't get it at this point, because in his mind there are only two choices. It's going to be either Hillary or Trump, and he thinks that we need to pick and his exact words are, at this point, he's looking to see who is the less dark of the two. I submit at this point, when we have to start looking at our elections as deciding that our leader needs to be the less dark of the two options, we've already lost. I mean, because at this point, we're going from the lesser of two evils to pick your poison, because neither of them are going to do what's best for America. This is apparent by the things that they're telling us right now, and nobody's listening, because when they say them, they don't really mean that. They're just trying to pick up votes. And I've been saying this all week. Each day you watch Trump roll out some policies that are more and further left and more progressive, and yet you have all of these people that are screaming, but Rick SCOTUS, if all of his political planks and all of his platform choices are so liberal, do you honestly believe he's going to make conservative choices for SCOTUS? Because I don't.
Yeah, I have no faith in that whatsoever. Also, to that point about he's got to do this to pick up more. He's just saying it because of this. Wait. This was the candidate that these initial supporters, the very diehard supporters, told us was not a politician. He was not a politician. He would not do that crap. He was going to tell it like it was. He didn't care what people thought. He absolutely was going to sell the things that he knew were right, and that's it. So this doesn't hold any water. I mean, they just can't. They got so conned. They got so conned, and they're so invested in him now. It's embarrassing to pull back, but it's embarrassing to stay in. This whole picking up more. That's why they hated Bush. That's why they hated Rubio for any sort of, anything that resembled a compromise with the left or a move towards any leftist argument or even discussing something with a Democrat was deemed, disqualifying. Yet it's perfectly okay for him to say things to pick up votes or to reach out to newer voters. And then what? He's just going to turn on them and smack them upside the head? Great guy you got there. I mean, they've just been so conned. It's outstanding.
Just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, huh?
Yeah, it makes me want to put my head through a wall, but,
You have a strange definition of warm and fuzzy. All right, so last bit to talk about for the night, still connected to the WTF files. And that is the article that I sent over to you that suddenly I can't find because my computer's being really stupid.
Expansion of government hacking.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so they're going to expand government using malware secretly with some amendments to Rule 41 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, which allow them to kind of use the courts to get some of these things approved. So the biggest thing here is that it's not approved by Congress. And these courts and the way that this is supposed to be and these rules are supposed to be amended, the reason why it was supposed to go through these side courts is because they were just small procedural type things. This is a major policy change, also a major national security change that should absolutely, I think, be approved by Congress. So what people are really worried about, and quite frankly, this article that we're looking at wasn't so worried about, and this was on Wired.com, it wasn't so much worried about them being able to spy on us as it was about the consequences of the actual technical consequences of this type of hacking and how it can crash systems, compromise infrastructure. If it happens on something like a hospital server, it can literally take them down and doctors can't access files and surgery logs and things like that to treat people the way they need to be treated. But yeah, the biggest thing, and obviously it could be co-opted, used by criminals, because it's just, I guess malware is kind of, I'm not super techie on these fronts, but I guess it's pretty, it's kind of hard to get them stable, get these software systems, these malware things stable so that it can be problematic, as they found in various other situations. What do you think about it?
I think it's funny how they're not even really touching on the biggest, scariest part of this, which is what it's actually going to be used for. I mean, so again, like you said, their biggest focus is the danger that the malware can have on all of these systems that it's going to be infesting, and that's a true scenario, and it's a big thing to be worried about. But let's not forget the reason why they're trying to put all this stuff on the computers is so they can spy on you anytime they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. And this goes back to, and the reason this sits so poorly with me, this goes back to my technical troubleshooting days from about 10 years ago, before I really started moving into management. One of the calls that everybody always talks about, because there's one of these in every training class, because there's somebody that thought it was funny. Because you'll be troubleshooting somebody's DirecTV box or dish box or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so afraid that there's a camera in this thing and that people are watching me." And the dude's like, "Hey, that's a pretty green dress you have on," trying to dissuade the fact that somebody's actually watching, because who would have thought she had a green dress on? And I mean, there's a million of these stories, and you probably hear different things about different clothing, etc. But the simple fact of the matter is, these have been fears people have had for a very long time. And as the story goes, and the one that I heard, she actually did have a green dress on. She smashed all of her DirecTV boxes, canceled her contract, and it was just terrible. And it's just one of those things where we already have all of these deep-seated fears about the government not having our best interests at heart. We have for a very long time, which is why I find it so funny that we have all of these deep-seated fears about them doing all of these things, but yet we keep re-electing the same two sides that keep doing all of these things. And then we keep finding more and more proof that they're doing exactly what we've been afraid of this entire time. And then we rise up, we throw a fit, it supposedly stops, and yet here we are again.
Right. Well, and I think, especially with this thing, one thing that it kind of like barely said was, they could access millions of devices and computers with a single warrant. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? That's ridiculous. Also, by the way, this goes into effect December 1st unless Congress acts. So it's not like this is something that's happening in the next few years. It's happening now.
Yeah, we're talking about this is basically being snuck in the middle of an election cycle, and they were hoping nobody was going to notice.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. But remember, Democrats are transparent. This is the most transparent administration ever.
Transparently crooked. But then again, that's pretty much the same for all of them anymore. I'm not even going to lie. I have very little faith in any politicians anymore. The only one that I'm still slightly, at least pulling for the most part, is Cruz, because while everybody's still calling him a liar, a cheat, a thief, everything else they can think of, he's been quietly waging a war in Congress to try to make sure that we get to maintain control of the interwebs, which is also about to go away, and nobody's really talking about that either.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said before, though, I think that this whole election has allowed for a lot of distraction from a lot of things going on in Washington. Been a nice little veil.
Yeah, I'm still curious to find out how all this net neutrality stuff is going to wind up hurting all of the folks that are doing things like you and I, and the business aspects of all of it, because I'm sure there are about to be all kinds of licensing changes and all kinds of things the government's going to figure out a way to work their way into. So who knows? We may not be doing this much longer, but I'm going to keep trying for as long as I can. And I've done pirate radio before. So what's the difference between doing pirate radio on the internet and doing it over the airwaves?
Yeah, true. I'm sure they want a piece of every bit of the pie.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that they're figuring out is with everything moving towards digital, with them not being able to maintain control of it and having it an actual free market. I mean, look, the internet is basically being referred to as the Wild West of the new millennium, with good reason, because pretty much anything that you want to find there, you can find there. You can find ways to carve out your own niche. I mean, look at Bannon, Trump's main advisor now. He actually made a fortune selling gold on one of the MMOs. So, I mean, the thing about it is, if you know how to do it and you know how to use it, there's money to be made on the internet. And the government's realizing that they need to get a hold of a lot more of that money. And they think by turning it over to international control, it's going to be a lot easier to regulate it. Because as long as it's here, we're supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. That's not nearly as true as it used to be. But if they turn it over to international control, then all bets are off. And it's one of the things that we may not talk about it much, but it's something that we talk about pretty much every chance we get, when I'm not too busy laughing at Sean Hannity talking about his brown belt. But on that note, folks, we are officially out of time. So, my dear, why don't you do as you do every time we wrap up the show and remind folks where they can hang out with you when you're not on air with me.
Alrighty, well, I am at J Homestead on Twitter, JR Homestead on Facebook, and come check out misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
All right, I, of course, am Rick Robinson. You can hang out with me on Twitter at AOTR_host. You can check out the America Off the Rails show, now moved to a daytime slot, so 11 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, I'm live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Jenn and Rick, just like right now. Friday nights, Robinson and Wright. Jenn and Rick is 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Robinson Wright is 11 Eastern, 10 Central. And then, of course, I'm live bright and early again on Saturday morning on Finding Common Ground. And you can also hear a lot of work that I do on Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, AMFM247.com, also Red Nation Rising Radio, the Liberty Channel. And speaking of which, remind me, Jen, I'm going to reach out to them and find out if they want to start carrying this one too. Might as well. I think they still have some room.
Cool.
All right, and on that note, folks, we are out. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for America Off the Rails. And until I see you, take care, be safe, God bless. Don't take any wooden nickels from Lord Cheesy Poof. Just saying.
I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could, 'cause 'cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do